Hey, it's your old pal Lucid Stu again with the Stu's News Special Report. Brightline West cost estimates have increased nearly 75% from $12.4 billion to $21.5 billion, and we have another delay in opening. Let's talk about this project and what these new developments might mean. Brightline West is a project that proposes to build a 218-mile-long high-speed rail line from Rancho Cucamonga in Southern California through the desert to Las Vegas, Nevada. That Rancho Cucamonga station is about 40 miles from downtown Los Angeles at a Metrolink commuter rail station and also near a major freeway junction. From there, the route would travel mostly within the Interstate 15 median, stopping once near Victorville and Apple Valley, and ultimately ending up in Enterprise, Nevada, near the intersection of Blue Diamond Road and Interstate 15, about 3 miles from the far southern end of the Las Vegas Strip. The trip is intended to take about 2 hours in an electrified, sealed, and grade-separated corridor. The intended train sets are American Pioneer 220s, which are a new, wider variant of Siemens Volaro trains currently in use in Europe. The project started about 20 years ago, intending to travel from the Victorville area to Las Vegas. For various reasons, the project didn't really go anywhere until Brightline West acquired it in 2018 and later decided to connect it to Rancho Cucamonga via the Cajon Pass. Initially, Brightline West wanted to open in 2023, and as we all know, all hell has broken loose in the entire world since.
Come on, man.
This resulted in various delays, but now there are visible signs of construction, so it's looking like it's going to happen. Or is it? The question mark now is the revelation from this federal document that the estimated cost for the project is now $21.5 billion. That is $9 billion more than the previous estimate and casts some doubt. First of all, this document relates to a $6 billion railroad rehabilitation and improvement financing loan that Brightline West has applied for. This is a $35 billion federal program aimed specifically at financing rail. It has desirable terms like low interest rates equivalent to U.S. Treasury rates. That would be half what Brightline West's sister organization in Florida typically pays on debt. The program allows 100% financing, although Brightline West does not require that. Repayment can occur over long terms and can be deferred until after project completion. From the perspective of Brightline West's quick 4-year build-out and intent to ramp up service over its first 5 years in operation, these terms are a great fit. According to this Bloomberg article, talks between Brightline West and the Department of Transportation have been encouraging, so let's assume this $6 billion loan is a fairly solid proposition. I contacted Brightline West regarding the federal document and subsequent Bloomberg article. They came back with no comment. So why have costs increased and why so much? Brightline West is at a stage now where most of their pre-construction and design is complete, so they've basically figured out exactly what all they need to do. They're negotiating construction contracts currently, and now they have to figure out what their contractors can actually build this thing for instead of dealing with hypotheticals. Construction costs are up substantially since COVID, and in the article, Brightline West cites construction competition from things like data centers as driving up cost further. When the cost estimate was $12.4 billion, the intended financing was as follows. In 2023, the project won a $3 billion federal-state partnership for intercity passenger rail grant. Brightline West has also secured the ability to issue $5.5 billion in bonds for the project. Most of these are private activity bonds, which are tax-exempt and issued via government agency. For instance, the $2.5 billion in bonds Brightline West currently has sold were issued through the states of California and Nevada. Brightline West also intended a $1 billion equity investment. The Brightline West corporate structure is such that these companies are subsidiaries of Fortress Investment Group, which has about $45 billion in investment assets. That is in turn 70% owned by Mubadala Investment Company, which is a $330 billion Abu Dhabi sovereign wealth fund. So there are some deep pockets behind the project, but those investment funds would rather not have to reach any further into those pockets. All of that left $3 billion remaining that Brightline West intended to borrow from a consortium of banks. That was taking quite a bit of time and was likely thrown off track by developments from the Trump administration and slumping Las Vegas visitation numbers. Now that the cost is $25.1 billion, that seems daunting. How would that work out? First of all, basically the same, plus the $6 billion railroad rehabilitation and improvement financing loan. That leaves $6 billion left to figure out instead of $3. From the Bloomberg article, it sounds like they intend to mostly cover that with equity and a smaller bank loan. What does cover that with equity mean? It could mean that hands reach a little deeper into those deep parent company pockets. It could also mean outside investors buying a portion of the company. It doesn't sound like taking the company public is being considered, though. So their hill is twice as steep a climb now, but it's still looking doable. In terms of service, Brightline West has quite a bit of padding built into their intended ticket prices, so they can carry a lot more debt than originally intended, but that has a limit. What's the limit? About $6 billion more than they are now planning to borrow, assuming a more typical rate and not RRIF rates. That has some implications. For one, their likely rosy ridership estimates based on higher Las Vegas tourism in the past can't be that far off in future reality. That's also going to give them less flexibility in ticket prices to drive initial demand while trying to service their debt load. This has become an issue in Florida, and they're cutting it close out there. I'm sure they'd like to avoid a repeat in the desert. Now let's talk about completion delay. Bloomberg says September 2029. That's a delay from December 2028, which itself was a delay from the 2028 Olympics, and before that it was 2024, then 2022. Given their 4-year construction timeline and the fact that they have started construction as of September, this would tend to reflect that they're still confident in being able to complete the financing despite the rise in cost. It's also worth noting the state of Nevada has hung a stipulation on the project. Brightline West must identify all funding in order to be issued an occupancy permit for the Interstate 15 median in Nevada. This is vital because Brightline West intends to use that space as a test track, and construction of that and testing of trains is intended to extend the entire 4 years. Any delay in the permit equals a delay in opening. They have about 6 months from the start of October 2025 before they absolutely need that permit in order to meet a September 2029 opening. In the meantime, there are things outside the median they can construct, which is why there is currently construction activity at their Las Vegas station site. That's also why they've recently posted a dust abatement permit notice at their Sloan, Nevada vehicle maintenance and operations site, where construction might begin shortly. They do have about $6 billion cash to work with, so there is plenty they can build, but it doesn't really advance their overall schedule any if they don't get that occupancy permit. In summary, the cost of Brightline West has increased from $12.4 to $21.5 billion. The amount they still need to figure out financing on has doubled from $3 to $6 billion, and opening has been delayed another 9 months to September of 2029. So can they do it, or will they continue heading in the wrong direction? Let me know what you think in the comments. This was a Stu's News special report, because this news came out too late to include in my monthly video about high-speed rail news, but check that out as well if you haven't. A big thanks to the Stu Crew Discord channel for all of their help. If you'd like to join our motley crew, check out the invite in the description. But that's all for now. Until next time, I'll see you on that big, beautiful freeway.